I was lied to about yoga because it was falsely advertised to me as a form of physical exercise. Whenever you find an exercise app or show, it seems yoga is almost always included as one of the exercises. I like to work out, so I am always on the lookout for new exercises I can add to my exercise routines to give myself some variety. Yoga is very pervasive, and it seemed to be on the thumbnails of a lot of exercise apps, even if those apps included other forms of exercise like kickboxing or circuit training. It definitely feels like yoga is being heavily promoted to the public as something positive. I know now that yoga is so much more than physical exercise and that yoga is not positive. I fell into the yoga trap for a few years through those exercise apps on my television, and I bought a few DVDs. I would get into a routine where I'd do yoga every day for a few weeks, and then I'd stop and do some different exercises for the next few weeks. Luckily for me, that was a blessing in disguise. The last year that yoga was in my exercise routine, one of the apps that I had been using disappeared off my television with no explanation. I thought it was strange, but wrote it off as a technological casualty. Apps stop working all the time. I decided to use one of the other apps, but then one day it too stopped working. This one didn't disappear completely. This one had login issues. It was a paid subscription app, and I double-checked to see if I'd paid, saw that I had, logged in again, only to have the app tell me I wasn't allowed to access the yoga video. I uninstalled and reinstalled the app, logged in again, and the same thing happened. I went back to the home screen and the app told me I was logged out. I was annoyed, but I had done that yoga routine enough times that I'd memorized it, so I just let my subscription expire and deleted that app. Then one day when I was using one of my yoga DVDs, my DVD player refused to play the workout. It would go to the home screen, but when I clicked on a workout, the DVD player would tell me it couldn't read the disc. I took out the yoga DVD and put in a movie, which worked just fine. I put the yoga DVD back in after cleaning the disc, and the DVD player still refused to play the workout. I put in a circuit training DVD and the DVD player worked fine, so I ended up doing that workout instead. A few years ago, I made a video talking about yoga, and I mentioned in it that it was fancy stretching. I got a comment from someone saying that yoga was not simply fancy stretching because it had a spiritual side. I justified it by responding that I don't do the chanting, so I'm not partaking in the spiritual side. One day I was watching YouTube and the algorithm showed me a video from the Beckett Cook show where he interviewed a woman named Ray who said that yoga was not what it claimed to be. She said that the goal of yoga was spiritual. It wants to teach people that there is an ultimate reality that we need to get past, and yoga is what you do if you want to achieve that. At this point in the video, I'm feeling a conviction from God that I've been lied to about yoga and that it's actually a sin, meaning not something I should be doing because it's not good. Ray mentioned as well that she started doing yoga to relieve her anxiety, but the more she kept doing it religiously every day, multiple times a day, she felt her anxiety was only getting worse. That's what I meant earlier about me having a blessing in disguise when I would break up my exercise routines with things other than yoga. I think that saved me from getting ritualistic about it. As I watched more of the video, Ray described Kundalini yoga and how it sometimes led to insanity and mental breakdown. Now I'm thinking yoga really lied to me because it advertises itself as stretching. Stretching doesn't lead to insanity and mental breakdown, so obviously there's something else going on here. Ray said, it's this idea of awakening the spine, or that serpent at the base of your spine, and bringing this energy up and into your body, and that's what Kundalini is aiming for. Now I know God is convicting me to stop doing yoga. The serpent imagery is creepy just on its own. Then add to that the only serpent imagery I know of is when Satan appears as a snake to Eve in the Garden of Eden and lies to her. Now, I know I want nothing to do with a practice that wants to release a serpent energy. At this point, I felt a literal, creepy, disgusting feeling even thinking about doing yoga, and I was thinking, ew, get away from me.
How about no?
The next day, the algorithm gave me a video made by a woman named Doreen Virtue, and she was saying each yoga pose mimics one of the millions of Hindu gods, and when you do the poses, you're worshipping the Hindu gods. She put up a picture of the warrior series of poses, warrior 1, 2, and 3, then put up a picture of the Hindu god scene those poses relate to. That scene was a murder scene. By this point, I felt like God had already convicted me of why yoga was not something I should be doing, and I'd definitely not felt any pull to do it at all. I remember doing the warrior series of poses during the time I had practiced yoga, so then I felt this intensely gross feeling after learning this information. But the feeling of disgust was good because it was only cementing my belief further that I was never going to be doing that again. I knew God had already successfully changed my heart, and now He was giving me even more knowledge about why yoga was definitely not just exercise. After watching those videos, I repented to God for doing yoga. What I know now is that there's a spiritual battle for all the souls of humans on earth. Yoga is pervasive because it falsely advertises itself as a tool to help your physical and mental health, which appeals to a lot of people. Then after you get sucked into the physical aspects of the poses, yoga reveals its spiritual side. I realize now that when the app I was using for yoga disappeared from my television with no explanation, when the other app I was using for yoga had those login problems, when my DVD player was refusing to play the yoga workouts, and when that comment was left on my yoga video, that was God trying to tell me yoga was dangerous because of those spiritual aspects of it, which can lead to insanity and mental breakdown. He was protecting me from going down the paths that yoga can lead to. God put those videos by Beckett Cook and Doreen Virtue into my algorithm, hoping I would watch them and get the right information about yoga. This time, his message got through to me. I finally saw what he was trying to tell me. I've also learned the meditation that yoga teaches can open doors to demons coming into your life because it teaches you that you should empty your mind of all thoughts. That is exactly what cults do when they tell you to let go of everything you knew before you entered the cult. They tell you that so they can put their thoughts into your head. The meditation that tells you to empty your mind of all thoughts gives demons access to your mind. You could hear things from God, but who's to say you couldn't also hear things from Satan? You wouldn't know because your mind is empty, ready for anything and anyone to take advantage of you. I don't think that's very healthy at all for anyone's mind. There is so much deception going on in this world, and I'm getting really sick of being lied to about everything. Yoga is deceptive, and I do not appreciate that fact about it. I am really grateful that I can always count on God to tell me the truth. I am really grateful to God for pointing me away from yoga, and I'm so happy that I chose to be on His side so that I can have His help in navigating this spiritual war. And I'll see you on the next video.